Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. Thank you for participating on this. Now, the webinar today is on the online wills service. So why offer them to clients? And particularly, we're going to reference, obviously, the challenging time that we're in during COVID-19. My name's Dave Newick. I'm the Managing Director of Arken.legal, and today I'm joined by Samantha Warner, Head of Legal Content. Good morning to you, Samantha.
Morning, Dave.
And Pippa Shepherd, who is our Head of Customer Engagement. Good morning to you, Pippa.
Morning, Dave.
And behind the scenes, not that you're going to hear from her, is the woman that you've probably spoken to at some stage if you're a Arken Legal customer, and that is Jessica Furbank, the Customer Success Manager here. Now, wanted to welcome you to this, and also just to cover off a little bit of housekeeping. There's four of us who are involved in running this webinar for you, and we're in four different locations, which I'm sure is probably a situation that you're all very familiar with these days as well. So please excuse us if you hear domestic noises, including teenagers asking for food, or dogs barking, or other things happening, or if we get any sort of technical glitches along the way with being in four different sets of internet. Now, up in the right-hand side, you're going to see the control panel, and down towards the bottom of that control panel, you've got an opportunity to ask questions, and we really welcome any questions that you've got. We'll have a lot to cover during the session. We think it's probably going to take 45 to sort of 50 minutes or so, depending on how long I go off piste for, which is, as my staff will tell you, is highly likely. But 45 to 50 minutes, so we will have time for questions at the end there. So let's just have a look at what we're going to cover. So Jess, if you can pick up the next slide. So this is the broad outline of what we're going to talk through today. So obviously we're going to look at online wills in general and how these are starting to grow in prominence in the industry. And then the core reason for your attendance today, which is really why offer an online will service. So what are the benefits? What are some of the challenges to do with that? And we're going to look at the opportunity with the millennials, because they're a key part of the offer of an online will service. And specifically, as I mentioned before, consider how this is appropriate and the business case really in and around COVID-19 and what that looks like. I mentioned challenges there before. Obviously, you'll want to consider the business process and how that might work within your own organization, and some of the opportunities and options that are open to you there. And then the big summary. And for those of you that are interested, look, this isn't a sales pitch. This is really a thought leadership piece where we can help outline and explain some of the benefits and the things to consider around online will service. But if you're interested in looking at the new online will service that we've released then towards the end, and we'll run through the online will service that we've just released, and you can have a look at that, at least from an overview perspective. So there'll be another sort of 2 to 3 minutes there. Now, before we go and I pass across to Pippa, who can start talking to the agenda, I just wanted to set the scene a little bit. Now, for those of you that were in our business continuity webinar during COVID, which was, I think, a week or so ago, time seems to blur these days, doesn't it? I spoke a little bit about the legacy of this time. And the legacy really is something that can be appropriate for you personally. It can be meaningful to your staff. And certainly the question is there in and around the legacy for your organization, for your business. So we're obviously in a highly unusual and challenging time, and I suspect that we're probably likely to go into some more challenging and difficult times where we'll have to make some hard decisions. And with all of these things that have happened in the past, we find that great change also brings opportunity. And so the question I ask of you, and the thing I'd like you to think about as you go through this webinar, and perhaps as you reflect on it a little later on, is whether there is a legacy here for you to pick up on the opportunities to perhaps consider new revenue streams, to perhaps consider new ways of doing business. And certainly the fact that you're here today in this webinar shows that you're open to the idea of considering perhaps how you can go about doing that within your own organization. From an online wills perspective, if we look at that specifically, perhaps the legacy is that you are able to move your organization forward in terms of its digitization journey, because online wills certainly sits at the forefront of that, and it's a very good, easy first step for you within your organization to take. It's virtually a plug-and-play solution. It's very easy to do that. So, look, I'm going to pass across to Pippa now, but I'd just like to leave you with that one thought, which is consider the legacy for you, for your staff, and for your organization as we go through this. So, over to you, Pippa.
Thanks, Dave. And as Dave mentioned, I'm Pippa Shepherd, Head of Customer Engagement here at Arken.legal. So the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is the growth in the online wills market. So if we look at the IRN research into the wills and probate market, and this was carried out at the end of last year, we can see that the wills and probate market is now worth some £1.3 billion. And the forecast for that is to continue to grow to 1.7 billion by 2024. So it's a growing industry, and there's many influences that are affecting that growth. You know, the population's aging, people are living longer, dementia is increasing as people are living longer, and that's all driving wills, lasting powers of attorney, etc. So there's a real opportunity to be had in the marketplace over the next 5 years and beyond. Now, if we look into wills statistics specifically, we can see that 55% of those writing a will do so using a solicitor or law firm, 19% will use a specialist will writer, and 12%, which is a figure I've got there on the slide, will deal with the wills themselves rather than asking for any professional help. Okay, so 12% of the wills market is still a significant sum. So the number of younger people doing wills is lower. They obviously have other priorities, it's not top of their list, but I'll talk a little bit about the opportunity with millennials later on and the opportunity that actually they offer to the marketplace as time goes on. The last point there is about price competitiveness, and the survey also says it's competitive not just between the common delivery methods of will drafting, but also the introduction of online wills. So prices can be as low as £20 for a will. And there are free wills through unions, special promotion months, etc. So it's really important that whatever you offer, the value is seen in the delivery mechanism that you choose. Now, if I move on to have a look at the Office of National Statistics, and this is their e-commerce and ICT activity report that came out in November last year, we can see that there's been a significant growth in e-commerce as well over the last few years. So e-commerce sales by businesses in the UK non-financial sector was 688 billion in 2018, and that's risen from 582 billion in 2017. So that's an 18% increase, and this is the largest annual growth it's seen since comparable records began in 2014. Now, the growth in total e-commerce sales, so digital sales there, has been mainly driven by an increase in website sales, so people selling stuff directly on their website, and that's 138 billion since 2014. So in 2018, 20.5% of the turnover of all businesses with 10 or more employees was from some kind of digital sale, and that's been up 18.6% on 2017. So you put these two together, you put a growing wills and probate market and a growing trend in e-commerce, and you can see where this is heading, and it's all heading to an online transaction. So if we have a look at online wills specifically and go back to the IRN report that I talked about in the first slide, it points out that there's two key offerings in the marketplace for online wills at the moment. One is an offer from an established law firm, and two is these pure play internet business startups. And there's some 40 or 50 online will writing businesses out there at the moment. Now, you'll see that at that end, they tend to be more a very simple word template. There's lots of change in this marketplace, lots of people coming in, lots of people going out. They don't stay around for very long. They're spotting the opportunity. They don't necessarily have the gravitas and the legal experience behind them to really build that approach. Now, if we look at the different approaches that are taken to online wills at the moment, there's two key that you can look at. So one is a basic template. So this is effectively a Word template or a web form that's got gaps in it. So you answer a few questions, it fills in the gaps. It's very basic, it produces a very basic will. It's not very comprehensive, there's no intelligence around it, and there's very few options as you go through the will. It's just answering those few questions. The second is a bit more comprehensive, but it tends to push the information through to a drafter, so it's not an immediate one. The drafter will get the information, they'll check it all, they'll draft it. So it's not a true online will solution. It doesn't have that immediacy factor that it can be completed there and then. So there are variations to these, obviously. Some will offer telephone support, for example, as they're completing it, and being able to help in that respect. But if we think about that 12% that are doing it themselves, that has actually increased 1% over the year prior to the previous report. So instead of 11% now, 12% are completing those wills themselves. And this really does start to reflect the changing demographic. Now, another interesting statistic is 4% that have started a will themselves then go on to use a professional advisor to complete. So one of the things we'd always recommend is having an option of doing an online will, but then pushing it through or relating back to get that professional advice and completion, or indeed just checking it to give them the peace of mind they've done it correctly. So now if we move on to the key point of why offer an online will solution to your clients. So I've got a few areas here. If we first look at customer retention, this is all about locking the business into your firm. So think about the opportunities that you've got within your firm or within your business or within other people that you know. How can you lock your client in with you for all their needs? Now, for the law organisations that are on today, think about those that have bought a house with you, you've done the conveyancing for them, or perhaps the family law side where you've helped a client through a divorce. And these are all key triggers for making a will, and you can market to them at that moment in time. A lot of people who are buying houses, again, we'll talk about this with the millennials, they have very straightforward needs. Now, I'll use the word straightforward quite a lot today because it's straightforward requirements. It's not necessarily a simple will, but they can have the peace of mind of doing an online will, and you can offer a solution for them and they can do it then. So you've got those opportunities to keep having those interactions with your client to keep them within your firm. It could be also that you can use your online wills as a loss leader. It's relatively cheap to implement and put in place, and you will be the first option as an executor. So a lot of the online will solutions will offer that for you to be an executor, so you can retain the customer here as well. So you have that whole cradle to grave service with them. The second point I've put here is revenue growth. I mean, hosting it on your website, getting out there and marketing it, having a good, strong service that offers that flexibility, the different options of engagement, and a really good quality client experience. And you can see the revenue growth for actually doing very little there. Now, think about this in terms of as your cost of acquisition. And I don't know if any of you measure that. And that's really how much does it cost to acquire a client, whether that's your sales effort, your marketing effort, etc., everything that you do in order to get a client. Now, online wills and the basic advertising of that can be very cheap and cheerful. And so therefore offering an online will can start to get that traction in with your organisation. So it can be a focal point to start talking about other things. Now, future-proofing your business here. Now, you've seen the increase in demand that I've gone through with the statistics there, the increase in the use of online wills, the increase in the marketplace. If you don't spot this opportunity, others will. They'll be putting it out there. We've seen that growth over the last year or so. We've seen these new players coming into the marketplace. So this is a key area where you can start future-proofing your business. And linking in with that is about leveraging your existing client relationships. So we talked earlier about customer retention, the opportunities that can bring, but as the generations change, you want to be having a relationship with the wider family and extend and grow your influence with the client's wider family and network. And I think if you've helped a client through probate, for example, their remaining family will see those imperatives around completing a will, even the younger members of the family. And online wills is a really great option for those straightforward requirements and instructions to take that through. So if we keep going on in this vein and look at new markets. So You may be very comfortable offering wills to the baby boomers or the silent generation, those over 60. You may have a good client base in care homes, or you go to local WI meetings, bowls clubs, etc., etc. But where is your growth coming from in the years to come? Yes, the population's aging, so that market will continue to increase, but the next generations are coming into scope for wills as well, and they're the Generation X and the millennials, and both these generation groups are very well versed online. And as you'll see coming up when we look at the millennials, they're also looking for that instant gratification. So online wills is a great opportunity. The other opportunity with online wills is things around unions and offering it via unions, things like employee benefit schemes. There's some real high volume opportunities out there as well. I put here rounded offering to all. Nowadays, people are all about options, and you just think about you going into a supermarket on a normal occasion and just think about the range of lettuce. We used to have just a bit of iceberg and there you go, but we've got organic lettuces, we've got bag lettuces, we've got little gems, we've got cost, we've got ice gem, we've got everything that we want there. People now want and look for choice. They want what they want, and they have come to expect that. And consumers are much more demanding in that respect, and to a certain degree less loyal. So where you can have had the loyalty in the past doesn't necessarily mean you'll have that going forward. So you do need to provide them with the option they want to complete it in the way they do. Now, if you do face-to-face meetings, telephone appointments, office-based interviews, if we're not in the situation that we're in at the moment, this is all great, but it takes time out of busy people's lives, and people's lives are incredibly busy these days. So an online will is a really good thing that would add to that offering. You have the answer to whatever method the consumer wishes you to deliver their will, and any other documents associated with that. Now, branding, this links back to the future proofing in a lot of respects. So, what do you want people or prospective clients to really say about your brand? And having an electronic offering, having a digital offering there shows your brand to be forward-thinking, customer-driven and modern. It looks as if you're going forward and embracing digital offerings. I put increased competitiveness there. I talked to you about earlier about 40 to 50 different competitors entering the marketplace with a pure play online wills offering. There is therefore increasing the competitiveness of the marketplace. And you do need a simple yet very effective way to deliver these straightforward instructions. You need to be able to compete and show the value that you add in that marketplace. You still need to differentiate yourself away from these players, because what you're going to be offering is obviously with the years of experience that goes into a legal product there. We carry on going forward, it's also about where you're focusing on as a business. So are you focusing on these very straightforward, lower cost options for delivering wills, or can you concentrate on dealing with the more added value, more complex, more lucrative opportunities that may involve trusts, inheritance tax, very complex family structures, vulnerable beneficiaries, business interests, overseas property and so on. There's lots of things that can make those instructions more complex. So if you're getting revenue from the straightforward instructions with very little interaction, and then you increase your drafting for the more complex, more costly documents, think about what that would do for your revenue balance, your business income there. The next one I put there is lead generation. Now, following on from that focus, the more complex instructions, you can have an online wills service that can act as a lead generator, not only for other business areas within your business, but for the more complex instructions for the wills themselves. So people will find you for the online will. They'll realise they can't go through it because they have more of the complex instructions, but your offer, your brand, your flexibility will be appealing, and you can directly push them down a route that enables you to pick up those more complex instructions and carry on an offline basis with those particular customers. I've put trusted advisor there. So you may be that trusted advisor and been that for many years. With your clients. You may be a very well-known high street brand that people have got used to seeing as they're walking around the high street, or you may be somebody completely new to them, but you've been recommended to them by somebody else. You've conveyed your professional abilities. You've proven that you're a serious professional within this marketplace. So if you are serious about doing a will and really protecting your family and your assets going forward. Who would you trust? And this one that's been around for a while, they recognise the brand, or they've dealt with you before, or would you go to more these pure play ones that you can just quickly find online and never heard of? So from our point of view, we really do believe that clients, particularly those that you've helped in other areas, are much more likely to come to you because you're their trusted advisor. So they will trust the product that you have on your website. So the will you're offering online is more valued in this respect than from somebody they've never heard of. The other opportunity we'll talk about in detail a little bit later is sadly the opportunity that's arisen out of the back of COVID-19 and the very strange world that we're all living in these days. But it is an opportunity at the moment as demand has increased, but we'll come on to that in a little while later. The next stage I want to talk to you is about the opportunity with millennials. So if you think here, consider the key trigger points in a life for making a will. So most people will start to think about a will when they get married or start having children. They may update them later if they have grandchildren starting to make an appearance. It may be they've suffered a death of a parent, they suddenly understand the importance of doing a will, or they've had to go through the added complication of somebody dying intestate. It may be brought to their attention when they start buying their first house. It may be recommended if they're trying extreme sports, or if you're anything like Dave, when he's going through his midlife crisis and buys his first fast car, then it might be recommended that you do a will there. Divorce, another life event where advice can be given or thought is given to their assets and their children if they're no longer with us, if you're now a single parent. So the other one there is illness, not just in life-changing illnesses like cancer, but the more topical ones we've got. But people, whenever they have some kind of illness, can think more about their mortality and what would happen if they weren't with us anymore. Now, if you put this on a life journey timescale and look at each of the generation and each of the life triggers and when they might occur, you can see here that millennials are now getting married, they're having children, they're gaining assets, they're moving up their career paths, they're maybe helping parents, they may be losing parents or dealing with parents or grandparents with dementia. So all these triggers bring thought to their own mortality and responsibilities in life, and no doubt at the moment in that same way. And they really do want to start thinking about putting their affairs in order in case the worst happens. So I've spoken to a lot of people, you know, about my role in Arken as soon as I started getting involved in the wills and probate industry, whether that be friends, colleagues, family members. And one of the things I hear most from the millennials amongst them is, yes, I know I need to get a will, you know, especially for my children. I need to put something in place there. It's something I must get round to. I just haven't yet. And lots of people have this on their mental to-do list. It's sitting there waiting for them to tick it. It's something they're thinking about. It's the best way of securing the marketplace's online wills, because looking at how they like to buy, which we'll come on to. So there are trillions of pounds that is expected to pass from the baby boomer generation to the millennials. I think, you know, 3 to 5 trillion has been bandied about. And overall, we've got about 50% of adults within the UK that don't currently have a will. And if you actually look at that from a millennial perspective, it's 76% don't have a will. Now, millennials, the early millennials were born in 1982, so they're now 37 years old. They're accumulating their assets, children, debt. They virtually all own a smartphone, and 73% use their phone to shop with instead of a PC or tablet. And they will only make decisions based on instant gratification. They want to do it, tick it off, do it now. It is an immediate thing for them. So given that, if a millennial wants to do a will, they would look on a smartphone online. They would even potentially doing it on the train ride back from work, and they would shop around to find somebody who offers a will, and they can do it there and then. They need that instant gratification. They want it now. They're more likely to go with somebody that offers online, that they can do there and then, have completed it, they've ticked it off that mental to-do list. Very little effort involved. There's no setting up a meeting, there's no taking a half day's holiday to talk to somebody about something they don't really want to consider. So they know, they're starting to realise that they need to do it. And I think the COVID-19 situation at the moment is actually enhancing that recognition of needing to do a will. But this is a survey we did a while ago with a group of will writers and solicitors to ask who they're currently targeting in terms of the generations. And as you can see, nobody, even those that were millennials themselves answering these questions, are specifically targeting this market. And that's a bit of a missed opportunity. We have millennials in our office place, one of who's getting married this summer, hopefully, and she's never seen any messages aimed at her about getting a will in any way, shape or form there. So, you know, there's opportunities with children, with marriage, etc. There's groups there that where you can get involved and start to raise the issue of wills and how they can easily get them completed. So looking at the key factors to consider here, one of the things with millennials, there's an opportunity to market them. There's not many other people in the space doing that at the moment. They do have expectations of having their answers to questions answered very quickly. So if you have an online chat function on your website, that really helps, and they will go to them 9 times out of 10 to get their answers rather than picking up the phone. Most are straightforward wills. They're straightforward, they're quite simple, so it is a prime opportunity from wills. So that's really important from this. Now, you may think, well, hold on a minute, you know, we make most of our money through probate. It's not a key target area for us, but think about the long-term value of the client. Think about your cost of acquisition. Think about, you know, what does it cost? How do you measure that? What would be the benefit of getting a long-term relationship with a particular client there? You know, you can then take them through their wills. You can update them every couple of years. You might be doing houses and conveyancing, and maybe divorces, family situations, you know, parents and you know, passing away and dealing with that, dementia, lasting powers of attorney. You know, all of those kind of life triggers there, you've got that opportunity to tie them in early and get a good relationship for them for the long term. So that's millennials, and we walk on now to COVID-19 and the situation that we're all finding ourselves in now. So, I mean, it is unprecedented times, but everybody is starting to think about their mortality and what would happen if they were unlucky enough to get coronavirus. Now, as part of this, we've been talking to many clients. As you can imagine, it's been really, really busy over the last few weeks, and the vast majority are seeing an increase in demand for wills. Plus, that's something we've been recommending, and we're seeing an increase in is other documents like general powers of attorney that don't need registering, with the LPAs taking longer to register, and advanced decisions. So that's, you know, really good for getting the medical wishes directly in front of a medical professional, especially if the family can't be around them at that time. So whereas in normal times people can procrastinate a little bit over their requirements, they can take many months to decide on their full instructions. At the moment, people are looking for a solution, and one that delivers quickly. You know, why is that? Well, it goes with the next point on the slide here. It's about peace of mind. So pandemics and lockdown make us all worry more. And this is one of the things that can really help give your clients peace of mind at this time, to know that their affairs are in order, to know their loved ones will be looked after if they were sadly to succumb to coronavirus. It's really, really sad, but it is true, and this is where the demand is coming from at the moment. So don't feel that you are taking advantage of this situation to try and push your business at a time when the country is in crisis. You are actually helping people that are wanting a solution and giving them peace of mind. They want it now. They want help to actually put their affairs in order. And equally, we've all heard the Chancellor last night talk about the economy. We do need some businesses to keep going, to keep driving, to keep operating, to see some growth, to help our economy recover as we come out of this crisis. So it is really important, and we shouldn't apologise for wanting to grow our business. It is about helping the people out there, and it is a good thing to grow our businesses even at this sad time. But I also put it out there, who is driving the demand at the moment? Now, my mum and dad have had no choice but to get a will in place since I've been working in the industry, but I know that since this has happened, I'm there to help on everything else. So from online grocery shopping to my mum running out of her favourite face cream to medical supplies to digital solutions to meet up with families and friends, they've turned to me. Now, I'm a Generation X, I'm not quite millennial, wish I was, but I'm not. But I am very used to computers, obviously working in the tech industry, and I'm the one that's searching things online. I'm looking for the solutions for them online. So it's really important to think about who is buying or who is recommending at this time. So it will be the millennial, it will be the tech savvy Generation X or the tech savvy baby boomer that are looking for these solutions. They can't go out, they can't have those normal face-to-face relationships or the normal ways they like to engage with people in the different generations. They're just worried at the moment now about getting something in place and something in place quickly. And this will drive demand to the online will marketplace as well. You know, some of our clients are reporting a 75% increased demand, so there is opportunities there. Now, I'm sure you've had enough of hearing to me, so I'm going to pass over to Sam, Head of Legal Content, who's going to talk to you a little bit about the challenges of putting in place an online will. Sam?
Oh, thanks, Pippa. Good morning, everyone. So, yes, there are a number of online will systems out there in the market, and it is possible to create your own system, but there are challenges to build your own online wills product. Thank you. Firstly, it takes time to build a system that will produce documents that you would be happy to stand behind. And arguably, in the current climate where face-to-face is not possible, time really is of the essence. Clients are demanding such an increased level at the moment, and the industry needs to be able to meet that demand. There are also costs involved in developing your own. To create a high-quality product in a user-friendly format requires market research and considerable development, which will almost inevitably have to be outsourced. But whether you decide to create your own system or use one already in the market, you will want to make sure that it has been created by industry specialists, taking into account applicable case law, best practice, and is compatible with the way that your business works. And you should ensure that the precedents in the system are regularly reviewed to ensure that risks to your business are minimized. By using existing regularly reviewed online will system rather than creating from scratch, you're making the upfront capital investment necessary to establish an online wills offer, and you're greatly reducing your ongoing compliance and monitoring costs. One of the main challenges to overcome with adopting any online will system is being wedded to the status quo. Solicitors and other drafters traditionally favour face-to-face instruction taking. There has been some reluctance to change to the more modern and efficient mode of online drafting because of concerns around the integrity of some of the online offerings in the market. And this is totally understandable. Risk to brand is not something that any will writer is or should be to contemplate, as it could be disastrous for your business. You know that you can control the quality of your bespoke drafted wills. You need to have the same faith in the quality of your online offering. Just because it is a more simple will that is produced through an online system should never mean that it is of a lower quality. An online system has to offer your clients all of the features that they would expect from a will. It should allow for a choice of executors and perhaps even allowing for your firm to be the default executor. And it should cover areas that will be important to them, such as their funeral arrangements, arrangements for their children, arrangements for their pets. It should offer helpful and intuitive options for the disposition of property to make the online process as straightforward as possible. You really do need to make it easy for people if they are operating on a smartphone. A will is such an important document that it is vital that testator should understand it. So therefore, it's really important that their will is written in plain English, and also a commentary or an automated covering letter explaining each clause of their will help them to understand it and make sure that their testamentary wishes are properly captured. It's also really important that an online will system should only be if it's appropriate for your client. This will require, for example, the value of their net estate at an appropriate level. There are circumstances which require your expert advice, such as inheritance tax issues, business trusts, or benefits provided for but who have been deliberately excluded from a will. Comprehensive screening questions should enable your client to determine whether an online will is appropriate for them, and should identify where a client will be more properly served by a bespoke service. This extensive screening is important not only for the best client service, but to protect your reputation and your brand. And also, in our experience, an online will system will really only be successful if you market it. You can't just put it on your website and expect the money to come rolling in. We're running another webinar next week looking at marketing during COVID-19, which will include some pointers to get you started with your online will offering. And if you'd like to attend that as well, you'd be more than welcome. Now, at the end, we'll tell you a little bit about Arken's offering in the online will space. It's not a sales pitch. We are doing these webinars to try and help the situation we're in at the moment. But if you want to hang on for overview, that's great. And please do get in touch if you would prefer a one-to-one demonstration, or if we can send you a recording of a webinar demonstration of the Arken online will service, and that will give you more information about it. And can we move to the next slide, please, Jess? Thanks. How does it work? So in practice, there are a few options. I'm just basing this on the Arken product suite option, but it does convey the ideas and uses that you can make with any online will system. In our experience, 7% of wills can be quite straightforward. Clients can complete them online by answering questions and choosing their package. For example, whether they want single wills or mirror wills, and they can also choose to print them out at home directly or to have them checked by you. That all works seamlessly through an online portal. The payment online will is done by the end user directly online with a credit card, or it can even be a free will if you have set this up as part of your service as a loss leader for other potential instructions. The wills can be downloaded easily, and your only interaction needs to be when you're emailed to say that someone wants their will. You can then choose to do that remotely or through a telephone call or a video conference. Choices and the levels of offering are set by you initially in your own back office customizations area. Now, on average, we estimate 50% of wills are not straightforward. As mentioned earlier, there can be quite complex family arrangements, inheritance tax to consider, business interests, trusts, vulnerable beneficiaries that need to be taken into consideration, and we would always recommend professional advice in this situation. Here, there are options to still capture base details from the client and push them through to you for drafting by a professional advisor. And there are a couple of solutions here, depending on whether you want to draft the complex wills yourself or to send them to a third party. Arken allows you to divert any client who fails the suitability screening questions of an online will to Arken Acquire, which is an information capture questionnaire, which will feed straight through to Arken Professional so that you or your designated third party can complete a more bespoke will without having to recapture the data already entered. So in circumstances, the online will system is a useful lead generator tool for the complex instructions. So I'll now hand back over to Dave, who will give us a summary of the benefits of online wills.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Pippa. And thank you to everybody who's listened in there. Now, look, my staff will tell you, as I said at the very beginning of the webinar, that I struggle to stay on piste, but I'm going to work very hard at that with the summary. We've covered quite a wide range of data there, both from the high level in terms of the overall trend that we're starting to see as online sales and digitization starts to take off globally across all industries, help with the growth of Amazon and things like that, and of course the growth of digitization within our own sector and some of the things that are starting to really impact there. And I think, you know, certainly from some of the conversations that we're having, that you will expect to see more disruption and more change and more people coming into to the space. And just here I go, piece straight away. The interesting piece about that is that lots of organizations are wanting wills for different reasons to the reason that we would in this industry particularly want to carry out a will. And that is that they are looking to connect with customers post GDPR. They are looking to acquire customers, but more specifically, they're definitely looking to acquire data around assets and liabilities. And so large financial services organisations and other businesses is now starting to consider the value of wills. So certainly within our own industry, as Pippa was explaining, there's a customer acquisition opportunity, and the customer acquisition cost for online wills is actually quite low. And whether that be with millennials or whether that be with other people that are within your community or client group, the cost is quite low, and yet the value is quite high because you can still charge the average price of a will online, even though there is some price pressure. Now, what I'd suggest to you, and I think the point that both Sam and Pippa picked up really well, is that you really want to make sure that an online will is going to be suitable for your business and for your brand, and that you're perhaps not running with something that is graphical intensive. What I mean by that is a lot of pretty pictures and not a lot of functionality, and is not going to cover the same depth and degree of risk management that you need in your own business. And I say risk management, and I mean that holistically across your brand and in terms of the actual outcome that you're delivering to the end client. Now, the other point that I'll just tease out there is that success in this particular initiative is dependent on marketing it. If you throw a link in some obscure part of your website and expect to make money, then I can tell you, you won't. However, what you can do is, if you stop and sit back and consider your business process and consider where the opportunities might be. I'll give you an example. Perhaps you have people who are coming to your website who you can track via different methods, and you're not getting any cut through with them. Maybe the offer is to send them a link to online wills, and that may well be a way in which you can commence a customer relationship. Another way may well be to tack on to your existing marketing channels. So if you have social media, then there's some things that you can do in that area, or perhaps even simple emails, but you're targeting friends and family, the millennials perhaps, or perhaps it's just people who can refer you into other organizations, and you're now, if you take on an online will service, able to offer them an outcome and something that's highly appropriate. And bear in mind, of course, that you can use that to generate the 30%, and so don't underestimate the value of that 30% of people who will have more complex needs and won't, in fact, choose to or be able to complete their needs on an online will service. I think you find that if you looked at some numbers and did some Excel spreadsheeting, that you'd find that 30% would be quite valuable. Now, don't be afraid of running with a solution. Now you can do that very quickly. The online will system that we offer is plug and play. It's very simple. You can put your brand in there and be offering that very, very quickly. I'd say to you that you could provision that and get that up and running, and contemporaneously then work on your business process, or do it the other way around. Think about your business process, think about exactly how you're going to do this, work with your marketing people, and then get this launched with a proper plan. So there's different options there. One of the other things to consider is getting it going. There's a special offer on at the moment, and you can do that very quickly. Get used to it, trial it, and then build from there. So there's different options there. I do like the option within our online will system, and generally with other systems, I guess, that are out there, where you can have a checking option. Now, what that does is that it's a bit of a hybrid, really, between a digital offering, which is online wills clearly, and the opportunity to then have a conversation. Because ultimately what's happening is that then is coming through to your drafting team, and they're checking that to make sure that yes, in fact, it is meeting the needs of the client. Now, look, the other point I'd tease out of that, which perhaps we didn't talk about, and this is something that's come through very clearly with an online will offering, which is a B2C offering in New Zealand, that is part of the sort of portfolio of businesses that our shareholder owns, and that is that if you have a checking option, that you're much more likely to get a buy-in from the community, from the population. So there is a higher take-up rate when you offer a checking option for certain sections of the community who are a little bit more wary, perhaps, in the way that they process data and make their decisions. So you might want to have a think about that. And offering that is very easy. You can have it or not have it. You don't have to have one or the other. You can have both. Another point that I think Pippa picked up on really well was to think of your future customer and who you want that person to be, where you want your firm to be. So this kind of segues quite nicely back to where we started the webinar, which is your legacy. So what is your firm's legacy from this time that we're in? And part of that legacy can be stepping back and thinking about the customer base that you want to work with. Now, typically the model, and I'm not knocking this at all, but typically the model that runs around wills is that you target those people who are closest to probate. And I completely understand that, because that's where a lot of revenue is, and obviously state administration and all those sorts of things. So that's understandable. And that's why most decisions and interactions are face-to-face or over the phone. What I would say to you is that you have the option of future-proofing yourself, as Pippa was saying, and thinking about who you want to work with, so that you've got a play in the digital space at low cost, so you can start acquiring different customers, because things will change. And any online will service, if you think about it, any new business, takes a while. There's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and you start to sort of generally build revenues and build your capabilities in and around that. And so now may well be, as part of your legacy, the appropriate time to start thinking about where you want to be in 3 years, and the sorts of customers that you want to have at that time, and the sorts of revenue splits that you might have for risk management reasons, or for whatever reasons you want to consider within your own business context. So look, I think that summarizes rather the main points that we covered. Obviously, we covered quite a bit. Now, anybody who's been in a webinar with me knows that I'm a bit of a Winston Churchill fan. In fact, our Westrum office is located very closely to his country estate, which I've been through a lot of times, let's just say that. So Winston Churchill, clearly a leader for the Second World War, and an absolute wordsmith. So I must admit that on my Twitter, 2 or 3 times a week, I will send out a Winston Churchill quote. So if you're looking for motivation on a Monday morning, then do feel free to follow me on Twitter. It's just @DavidNewitt. Anyway, I digress yet again. These quotes I thought were quite appropriate for where we're at. A pessimist sees a difficulty in every opportunity, and optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. And I guess that's quite poignant when we consider the topic of the webinar today. And then right alongside that, to improve is to change, to be perfect is to change often. And I guess as a challenge for our industry, then change is not something that we have en masse been good at adopting. And so perhaps now one of the legacies that we can consider is that we can adopt change and be much more open to considering how we do that, much more agile in our thinking. Now, we're going to pass on to the last little bit of the webinar, and we're going to talk about a quick overview of some webinars that we've got coming up. So the next one, which is actually tomorrow, which if you're interested, I'm interviewing a senior partner from a chartered accountancy firm, Brighton Johnson. I've been around 128 years, would you believe? I think it's older than New Zealand, but nonetheless, we're talking about the financial management during COVID-19. So we're going to talk about how to manage cash flow, some of the basic business principles. So please jump on the site and look under webinars. It's in a drop-down menu, and you can log on to that one. And then next week, we've got the marketing through the COVID-19 outbreak. So this is an extension of what we've been talking about with online wills. It does cover some online wills stuff as well, but it'll be generally a more thorough look at how to market successfully. I know there's some concern out there from people who are worried about being seen to be ambulance chasing, is a term that I've seen. Then we've got part 2 of our business continuity during COVID-19. This is all part of the program that we've pulled together to try and help the industry through these challenging times by sharing as much information as we can as a collective. And in that particular webinar, we're going to be extending out the thoughts that we ran with and put to you in the first webinar, which incidentally, if you're interested in seeing, if you haven't seen already, is also available as a recording on our site. Now, in closing, I would like to say this. I guess you've probably all noticed that the standard inquiry now from people who email you is to inquire about your health. And the standard sign-off now is increasingly not kind regards, but it's stay safe. And I absolutely understand the sentiments there, and I wish that to you as well. And I would add to that I wish you all the best, and I hope that you stay positive. I hope we all stay positive, because we will have challenging times ahead. And it's really important as an industry, as individuals, and as companies collectively, that we keep our sense of perspective and positivity, particularly because this industry is in fact counter-cyclical, and we have every reason to be positive about the economic outlook. So Pippa, I'm going to pass back to you.
Yep, thanks, Dave. Just go to Jess. Jess, have we got any questions that we would like answered today?
Yep, we've actually had quite a few questions come through, so I'm just going to give you a couple here to answer, and then the rest we can get back directly to those who have asked them. So the first question here is, can you give me more details on how to market the online wills system?
Do you want me to answer that, Pippa?
Yeah, go for it, Dave. Yeah.
Okay, so we touched on this, and we're going to certainly explore this a little bit more in next week's webinar. Look, it's different for every business, but there's some generalities that will occur. What I would suggest to you is you're not going to go out and spend thousands and thousands of pounds on AdWords and all sorts of different things. The first port of call for you really is to look at your existing channels. So you may already have a social media presence. If you don't, you can probably spend a very low amount of money on Facebook and perhaps some Instagram or something like that in different channels, whatever's most appropriate for your brand. And you can control that spend and get the offer out in front of people. Clearly, you've got your own website. It's a great idea to create a new page for your website talking about online wills. Look, the fundamental rule that I always work to is you can't sell a secret. So you need to tell people that you're offering this service. You can't expect them to find it. And so your email, the ability to get out to your existing community, your will bank, with an offer which is perhaps specifically not about them, because you want them to continue to buy in the same way, but more about an offer where you can encourage them to pass this voucher code, this offer on to their children, if you're talking about baby boomers, to their friends, to people in their community. Perhaps you have a particular interest in helping NHS or frontline staff. Perhaps you could offer those sorts of people a special offer. Hopefully that helps, but do enroll for the next webinar, because we can cover that in some real depth.
Okay, the next question is, how quickly can the online will service be implemented?
We covered this. Yeah, do you want to talk about that, Pippa?
Yeah, what I was going to say is it depends obviously which solution you take up. There are a few out there. For ours, you just need to go through a registration process, which is putting your branding, choosing what colour you want the buttons, etc., as I'll go through in a minute when I go through the product. But effectively, you need a business PayPal account so people can pay securely through PayPal. So it's as long as it takes to set that up. So we have had people who've been up and running within 45-50 minutes. And it just depends on you and your business processes, how quickly you want it to be done.
Okay, and then the last question we'll ask, which you briefly went through now is, can the online will system be branded to my business?
Yes, yeah, it can do, absolutely. It is, you have a back office within ours that is all managed your customization. So it's your brand, your colors, even the buttons can be personalized to you. You can change, you put your own terms and conditions on, you put your own like email footers and all that kind of stuff. So yes, it is all managed through there.
Brilliant. Then the rest of the questions will reply directly to those that have asked.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Just so we try and keep within the time. So thanks, Jess. Just quickly, for those of you interested, I've just got a few slides just to talk about Arken's online will service. Our online will service does fit as part of a solution, our product suite there. So we do have the professional tool, and it's important to mention that because actually our online will service is off the back of our professionals tool. So it's very well tried and tested. We have Acquire, which can, Sam mentioned it briefly, but can link in with online wills to take those 30% more complex instructions. And then Arken Anywhere is all about our professional tool, but without an internet connection. Very useful for introducer networks, especially at this time. If you want them to take instructions over the phone, then pass them through to a drafter. And we do have an open API, so we can fit with other systems, particularly CRM. But online system, online will service was launched back in 2009. We've updated it for 2020, so it's got a new look and feel, much more modern, mobile friendly, etc. But it is built on that technology of our Arken professional product. So therefore it is very which allows for very complex wills, but it's tuned down to allow for those straightforward wills. So you can be very confident in the precedent bank. It's very well, 6 million wills have gone through this, and thousands of wills have gone through our online system. So again, very tried and tested, you can be confident. The other thing our online will system does is create a whole will pack. It's all well and good getting this piece of document at the end saying this is my last will and testament, but what have I actually signed up for here? So those of you who are clients who are used to getting the will and the commentary and the cover sheet with it and signing instructions, you do get that all the way through the online will solution as well. So they will get a bespoke line by line, clause by clause commentary on what they've included in their will with appropriate help and advice if it's needed. One of the things we do as well is invest heavily in our data hosting. So we use Amazon Web Service, which is one of the best practice, largest, most secure ones out there. So we do invest heavily in that. So because client data is obviously of a huge importance when it comes to online wills. We don't offer solutions directly to the consumer. We're a business to consumer. So we're there about facilitating you, their trusted advisor, which is the next point there, being able to offer that solution directly to your clients. So that's how we manage it. Now it is feature rich. We have secure logins, password control. There is input validation and tooltips in there. So there's drop down information, links. There are mandatory fields that have to be completed to allow the will to be completed. It guides them through a step-by-step process, taking them through each section of the questionnaire. And we do offer a range of services. So there's 3 different levels that you can offer with online wills. One is that they can do it all themselves, so they can go through from start to finish, and at the end of that process, they can download their will. They can do their will, go through all their instructions, and then send it to you for checking. And they can do a 3rd level, which is sending it to you for checking, plus then you print, bind it and send it out to them. Now, you can choose to offer all 3, just one of them, just 2 of them. You choose within your customizations what it is that you want to offer. Now, the system, if you say, for example, you're doing the plug and play, going all the way through, you don't want to get involved, check the wills. Now, that will just go through seamlessly with all the emails being sent to them without you having to touch it. You just need to go into your process center and look to see who's completed a will, and they're paid through PayPal. Excellent. And that money is in your account. So those email generations happen all the way throughout the system, even if you're doing a checking service, but it is a very hands-off solution if you want it to be. There is also the option in there of creating mirror wills. So the one spouse can go through and then their partner can go through afterwards, and it will remember all the information and remember the relationships as well, which makes it just much more simple for them to complete. It'll work on any browser, so whether you're using Firefox or Internet Explorer or Chrome, etc., it will work on there. And I talked a little bit earlier about customization, so there is a full customization within there. It does link to other data capture tools, so it does link to Arken Acquire. So if they can't complete a will online because they've gone through the criteria and it is more complex, then they can use Acquire then to fill in their information to be sent through to Arken Professional for drafting. Key benefits, it can be a standalone solution. So if you currently don't have a website, I know we have some of the smaller operators on with us today, as well as the larger ones, and it can operate just as your website in its own right. It doesn't have to be linked to from another website. It's in very high demand at the moment, online wills. It's incredibly easy and quick to set up, and there are the options there for the more complex to push it through. I've spoken to you about the different choices of levels, so you can offer these, and it is mobile friendly. Now, the other thing is, if you are an Arken Professional customer, then you can have peace of mind that everything you're producing from your business, whether that be an online will or a more complex one, it has consistency across the board. So that is really reassuring as well from a risk management perspective. And it does look and feel like your company. It's not an Arken product, it's your product offering out there. Again, we're a business to consumer offering. That's all I was going to say on online wills. We did a demo last week. If you haven't seen that, didn't involve, please contact info@arken.legal. We can send you the recording so you can actually see it working in practice, or please just let us know and we'll set up a one-to-one demo and walk you through it and answer any questions you've got there. We are really keen as well to hear about any other, you can see the other ones that we've got, the other webinars we've got scheduled. You can watch the first one we did, we can send you a recording of that. But if there is anything else that you'd like help with, we are here to help you. You know, we are obviously technology experts, so if there's anything you want help and support with throughout, we are those technology as well as legal experts. So please do get in touch. As Dave said, stay safe, wish you all the best. And if you'd like anything else, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. Many thanks. Bye-bye.